Well, hey now, it's the Rob from 106.1 KISS FM here with my tag team partner in podcasting. Welcome, everyone, the incredible one, Ramblin' Jerry Valeri. Good morning, Jer.
Good morning! And we're about to be involved with all kinds of vacations. Me, then you. People are going to miss us.
Yeah, well, that's true. I think we're going to have 2 weeks where we won't have any podcasts at all. But that should be about it, I think, because we'll be able to bang out 3 episodes this week. Tomorrow's might be in a weird time.
And I'll tell you what, tomorrow, if we do, when we do one tomorrow, that'll be the last. It won't be a predictions episode, but I will tell you my prediction for the main event of Great Balls of Fire and maybe a couple other matches if I'm thinking of them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true. Hold on, I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess we won't be able to have a predictions episode specifically for Great Balls of Fire, although I will tell you it's shaping up to be a pretty good show.
It looks to be good. I mean, I'll be back. I'll be back after the 4th. But then you'll be on vacation, and I know moving can be a real sucker. So we could do like a 10-minute thing if you ever wanted to, or I could just tell you who I think is going to win the main event, because that's going to be a pretty cool show.
Yeah, let's figure that out on Wednesday's episode.
Cross that bridge when we get to it.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I'm thinking. So, how you doing? You been all right?
Things are going okay. Yeah, had a weekend, a good weekend. No kids. Oh, what a change that is to my life.
Why didn't you have any kids?
So, Allie was at Girl Scout camp, which pick up for that, man. That was the worst, man. She had to spend the whole weekend with a bunch of granola eating, tie-dye wearing hippies. That's her deal. And then Evan went to New York with New York grandma. And I had to lie to my mom because mom was like, well, what are they going to do? And I said, I started with the zoo. I was like, they're going to go to the zoo. And my mom starts to freak. Zoos aren't safe anymore. Zoos aren't safe like they used to be. She better be careful. Oh, God, I hope the baby boy's okay. So I didn't even mention that they were also going to Niagara Falls in Canada.
That's funny. You know, I saw people talking about that.
It was like, oh, look at me. I might be able to get naked in my house today.
You know, you were talking about Niagara Falls. I was seeing people on Facebook this weekend talking about Niagara Falls. Do you need a passport to get to the Canada side of Niagara Falls now?
You do. You now need a passport to get to Canada.
Since
when?
You
need a passport for Canada, Mexico, all of that jazz. So we got passports for us and the kids last year because that's been a rule for a while, but.
Well, when I went to WrestleMania 18, 2002, you didn't need one.
No, and I've been to Canada millions of times without one. This will be the first time we're going again this summer. This will be the first time I've had to use one.
Interesting.
Well, you said 2002. I thought it was like a post 9/11 deal, but if you went in 2002, then it must have been later than that.
Yeah, or maybe because WrestleMania 2002 wasn't all that long after September 11th.
So they might not have had time to change all the rules by then.
Okay. Interesting. Well, we got a topic for you today. I'm trying to bring back the topics a little bit on weeks which seem to be rare anymore, but I'm thinking that on weeks where we don't have to do any sort of pay-per-view predictions or recap, maybe we can have a bonus topic episode.
Absolutely. And the topics people were throwing out to us, there were a lot of good ones to choose from.
Yeah.
Like, I think when I kind of like the tag team one, although that's not what we chose.
We almost did for a while. I was kind of glad we switched off it because Jerry threw me a bunch of topics that he liked from the People's Post-Show suggestions. And I was like, those are all good, to be honest with you. Why don't you go ahead and pick which one you like best? We can do that. And you picked tag teams, which the only reason I didn't like that one was because even though it wasn't with you, with Eric, we have done that episode before.
Oh, okay.
So I feel like we kind of done that one, but you probably weren't even aware of that, and it didn't have your input on it. So I was like, that's fine. Well, it's cool. We can do another tag team episode. But the one that we decided on, I think will be more fun because we haven't done this one. Although there is something that worries me about this one too. But I'll go ahead and you want to tell people what we're going to talk about?
We're talking about best wrestlers, superstars to never hold a championship. And when I say championship,
world
I don't mean
championship.
AWA or an NWA championship. I mean like in the WWF or WWE or WCW, like a major.
Yeah, but we're also talking about world champions.
World champion.
Yeah, like intercontinental champions are, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the greatest wrestlers to have never won the world title.
In fact, a couple of the guys on my list were intercontinental champions, so that wouldn't work.
I think I wrote down 4 names, and they all were intercontinental champion. So
my question for you, because as I went through the list, and could you come up with any names that were like 2000 and up?
No. At least I didn't.
Now, the way they book and the way they do it, I mean, now it's millennial booking. We've discussed it, but even back in the 2000s, everybody that really earned it usually got a moment in the sun. But in the 80s and the 90s, that definitely wasn't the case at all.
Boy, you know what I'm realizing now? Because I was going to say, I mean, yeah, because nowadays the bar is Jinder Mahal's a world champion. Jack Swagger is a world champion. Like this is where the bar is. And now it's kind of got me thinking, I almost wish I would have changed it when you suggested the best wrestlers to never win the world title. I kind of think we should have made it worse wrestlers to win the world title. Maybe that can be a future topic.
It could be a future topic, and I might say Dolph Ziggler and get yelled at by everybody.
I almost put him on my short list right there. Not that he. We'll get to it later. So my only problem with this particular topic is that I feel like we're gonna have either the same names or we're gonna I feel like there's just a list out there that everyone already knows about. You know what I mean? When it comes to the greatest wrestlers to never win the world title, but who cares? We can still talk about them.
For me, it's okay. Any opportunity I have to talk about some of those older wrestlers, I know it wasn't your wheelhouse, but in the mid to late 80s and early 90s, that's when I loved wrestling the most. That's when I was a 7 and 8 year old kid, and I was going crazy for some of these guys. And I'll throw out my first name if you want. I don't have them in order. Like, I don't have a number one. I just have a bunch that I think of that I wish would have had a world championship, and Jake the Snake Roberts is on my list.
Well, you know what? I didn't even think of Jake, to be honest with you. I didn't think of him. That's a great choice. He's not on my list.
I think Jake the Snake, he was a face for a while, but he was one of my favorite heels. His gimmick was great, and I know he's a train wreck now, but I think I mentioned Jake a lot on the podcast because he was always one of my favorites. I think that he always resonated with me and never had a world championship.
Yeah, and Jake is, and I like this about Jake. While it is hard to say his name without mentioning the demons or whatever you want to refer to them as.
Right.
Jake is used as the high water mark. His name always comes up when you talk about wrestling psychology.
Yeah.
And just the way he thought, the way his brain dissected wrestling was extremely. He was very inept at it. He was a really high level thinker when it came to not what you do, but how you do it and why you do it. Jake, I can't think of anyone who did it better than him.
Yeah, I can't either. And he was asked in some interview somewhere, I saw him say that he was asked about never winning the world championship, and he said, I didn't need it. I didn't need it. He's like, as long as I had that bag, as long as I had Damien, I was over.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
So the way he's kind of tipping the hat to the championship being a bit of a prop, he felt, but it would have been nice for him to have it. I think he would have been a good belt holder. Every
time we bring that up, I want to remind people that that's not wrong. I'm not saying it's 100% right, but it's not wrong.
No,
when you win the title, for lack of a better term, as Russo puts it, it's like an actor winning something in a part. I don't even mean in real life. I mean, like, if you're watching The Walking Dead and Rick wins a fight with a horde of zombies,
He didn't win a fight.
He didn't really win a fight. Exactly. You know, so there's that mentality, but it also is something that should be held with a lot of prestige and a lot of pride. And Jake got the difference. Remember, Jake's the guy, we talked about this a few weeks ago too. Jake was the guy who, when the curtain call happened and they made the decision to not let Triple H win the King of the Ring in 1996, you know, Jake was the guy who was in like the Final Four, made it to the pay-per-view on the show. And Jake was the guy who said, give it to Austin. You know, I bet you a lot of those guys would be like, give it to me. But Jake didn't need it. Austin needed it.
Jake didn't need it at all.
One of the names on my list is, you know, I guess I'll start high if you don't mind. And
go ahead.
I'll go with what I feel personally is my favorite to never win the big one. And I almost had to second guess myself because I knew he didn't.
Time out for a second. Buckle up. The ABC News alert's coming on. Someone's coming in here, I guarantee it. And but it's an ABC News alert, so this is kind of what's going to happen. That's Pat Urban behind me.
Oh, good old Pat Urban.
In the studio. Here we go.
Pat, if you can see me, it's nice to see you, bud. Hope you're doing all right. I'm just, I can't hear him, but I hope he's doing all right.
Oh, hi there. I'm sorry. I can't pay a whole lot of attention until I find out whether or not the world's going to end or what Trump did now.
If it is, can you break it to us on Post to Post?
Absolutely. What the hell's Post to Post?
That's the name of the podcast.
Okay. Sure.
Thanks, Pat.
Doesn't have a mute button.
No
all right,
problem.
So we're going to check it now. We're going to see what it is.
Oh, now I'm curious. Yeah. I'm glad we didn't reveal the name yet. What do we got? This is crazy.
We're doing radio. Hold on.
It's okay. This is totally fine. I believe that was less than 4 seconds of music. Oh, we're actually doing radio. We are really doing radio. If the world is going to end, you're going to hear it here first, live. Watch, it's just something totally stupid like Dancing with the Stars cast announced.
No, Trump's travel ban.
Oh, travel ban.
It's travel ban. The court's upholding it and blah blah blah.
So that means that Trump's travel ban is now in place?
No, they're still saying that it's not constitutional.
Gotcha.
That's what I got from it,
The
right?
Supreme Court upheld the decisions of the lower courts.
Yeah. So the Supreme Court says, yeah, I can't do it.
Cool. Well, do you want me to reveal what I feel is one of the biggest wrestlers to never hold a world championship?
Yes, I'm dying for that one. Go for it.
So one of the big ones to me, and like I was saying before, we thought the world was going to end, was that I had to second guess myself, especially in the WCW days when the title was a hot potato held by people like Vince Russo and David Arquette, and Buff Bagwell's mom was on a forklift and all this stuff. I knew he didn't win the WWE championship or WWF championship, but the fact that Scott Hall never won a world title to me is mind blowing. I've always liked Scott. Even back when I was a mark, Razor Ramon was a very popular babyface when I didn't understand what I was watching. Then when I did understand what I was watching, he was the cool NWO cat, and everyone in the NWO held the world title, I think. And then, like I said, he was always in the main event of WCW, always in that spotlight. The fact that he never got around with that title is crazy to me. But also, like, when you think about how popular of a babyface Razor Ramon was in WWF, and like some of the names that did hold it, now it was very prestigious at the time, that like we're talking new generation. So we're talking like Diesel, we're talking Bret Hart, we're talking Shawn Michaels. It was not being tossed around then. It was very prestigious. But I do think that Razor fit the bill personally.
That's a great name, and that wasn't on my list. I completely forgot about Scott Hall.
Oh, this is great then.
I always think of them, the outsiders together. But Diesel had it, Kevin Nash had it, and I love Scott Hall. He's another guy with the demons or whatever, and you can judge him now. But when he was active in the ring, their mic work, their presence, it always made up for some of their work rate.
Well, let me tell you this. I don't believe, at least in WWF, that the demons had anything to do with him not holding the world title.
No, I think if he had stayed, he might have won it.
Well, that was part of why he left. And, you know, he's been open about this too. He said to Vince, you know, what do I have to do to make it to the next level? You know, I got this offer from WCW. I don't want to take it. It's not even a money thing. I just feel like I've reached my glass ceiling with Vince. And Vince told him it's nothing that you're doing. It's, you know, it just hasn't, it's not in the cards. Or I don't even know what Vince really replied with that, but it was essentially saying you've kind of reached your pinnacle here. And Scott took that opportunity to jump to WCW, and Vince, I believe, has been very, you know, once the war was over, he was pretty open about how he kind of dropped the ball there.
Yeah.
So that's what I think is my biggest. And I like that the two first names you've mentioned weren't on both of our lists.
Right.
What else do you have?
We got to mention Roddy Piper.
Not on my list.
Okay.
This is awesome. I was going to mention Piper with earlier when you mentioned Jake, when you said Jake didn't need it. Piper, you could also argue, didn't need it.
Piper is surprising to me because for a guy that wouldn't do a job to anybody, you think at some point he would have found the belt. And I think a lot of my list is going to come from those 80s heels that were there to feud with Hogan, but never lose to Hogan. Or never beat Hogan, rather.
Sure.
Hogan held it for most of the time. And so I think that a lot of my list is going to focus around there. I would have said Andre the Giant, but he had it in that weird way for a minute. And
yeah, a lot of people don't consider him a champion. Boy, another name I didn't even think of. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into this, I guess. Andre, I think
really old, like Chief Jay Strongbow never had a championship. That's what somebody said to me over the week, and I was like, yeah, but I didn't watch then, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, he doesn't really have a big impact on me. Andre kind of did, and a lot of people don't consider him one because, I mean, how did that work? Hold on.
Okay, so I
know it.
He
bought it from $1 Million Man, or $1 Million Man bought it from him.
There was a fake Dave Hebner. You know, so they had Dave Hebner in the back, and then they brought out like this lookalike that they said was that the $1 Million Man had paid someone to get plastic surgery to look like him. Hogan's shoulders weren't down. It was Earl Hebner, and so it ends up being Earl Hebner.
Right.
Hogan's shoulders not down. He counts 1, 2, 3 anyways. Andre the Giant gets the championship, gives it to the $1 Million Man, who I don't count as a champion either, and I think that he's not a champion. And then they just get rid of it altogether. They get rid of the belt. They're disqualified, take the belt away from everybody, and then Hogan's got to fight Andre the Giant for it another time, and that ends up in a double DQ. It was a really weird time for the belt.
$1 Million Man is a name I did think of.
Me too.
Well, he wasn't on my top 4. Let's talk about him though, because do you know his story? He was also a guy slated to win the world title, but it didn't come to fruition. Oh,
was he? I just thought he was another one of those.
Yeah, this is a
guy that was meant to put Hogan over.
So here's the story with $1 Million Man, and this is a pretty popular story. I'm kind of glad you don't know it because it's an interesting one. So $1 Million Man was going to win the tournament at WrestleMania 4. That was the tournament to determine the world champion. Went on to be won by Macho Man Randy Savage.
And that tournament was held because of the whole schmoz with the championship in the first place.
Correct. This whole thing was designed to get $1 Million Man the championship. Obviously, that didn't happen. The reason it didn't happen was because that was the night that Macho Man was supposed to win the Intercontinental Championship from Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man refused to do the job for Randy Savage. This was before Savage was ever a champion in his own right, or, you know, still kind of cutting his teeth, for lack of a better term. Had a great match the year before with Steamboat, was doing really, really well, but hadn't cracked that upper echelon quite yet. And there was apparently a very big deal, this is also supposedly why they took the belt off him in 14 seconds that year at SummerSlam, but whatever, with the Warrior and all that stuff. But whatever the case may be, the plan was DiBiase wins the world title, Macho Man wins Intercontinental Championship. For whatever reason, since he wouldn't put over Macho Man, since Honky Tonk wouldn't put over Macho Man, they decided to springboard him so that they can get the program with Hogan going. So the guy who really bit the bullet was $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase.
The Honky Tonk Man screwed $1 Million Man because it really just not doing the job created the mega powers.
That kind of stuff really pissed me off, man. I don't like. I mean, every once in a while, or if you have creative control in your contract, I get it. But I don't like when guys like Honky Tonk refuse to do jobs. It bothers me big time.
Yeah. What right does he have to not do a job? You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. And I get that it's his career and everything. But when you are
it's not
given,
like losing the Macho Man Randy Savage is going to hurt you.
It doesn't. The thing is, though, it's you got to look at it as when you're given a title, it is assumed you're going to lose the title, you know, and it's not your title to begin with. So yeah, it's the way I feel about that one. That's one of the most upsetting instances of refusing to do a job, in my opinion. And I don't factor in all the Hogan shenanigans from WCW. I don't factor in the Bret Hart screw job. Those are guys with creative control clauses. If you're foolish enough to give one of your stars, one of your actors essentially, creative control, and then you're foolish enough to give them the title, you deserve things like that.
Right.
In my opinion. Let's move on to another name if you don't mind. I can't imagine you don't have this name on yours. Especially when you're talking about, you know, heels that were fed to Hogan. Someone like Rick Rude, to me, is a big name that never won any world title.
Rick Rude, and then there's another guy that they're the ones that, like, some of my favorites that didn't get a title. Yeah, Rick Rude for sure. His program with the Warrior was awesome. I just think he would have made just a very great world champion. There's
a justice, I feel like, in serious wrestling fans' minds when the world champion happens to be the best worker. I feel like as wrestling fans, that is sound. It doesn't
always happen.
It's ideal, correct? And it usually does not happen. Once in a while, it does.
Yeah, I mean, like, Hogan wasn't the best worker. He deserved the championship for as long as he had it. He was the most over.
Right.
But the most over is not always the best worker either. Stone Cold Steve Austin is not the best worker.
No, and it's pretty rare. Like, you know, when like Brett and Shawn had it, to me, that's great. When Kurt Angle had it, you know, that's great. The best workers are having the title. That's great. You know,
Chris Jericho, I think of as another one.
Yeah, like there are some examples of when to me it's perfectly just. Like, I love that. And with how over he was, how much heat he had as a heel, even someone like Hogan chasing him for a little bit would have made a lot of sense. Admittedly, he was usually in like mid-level feuds with guys like Jake Roberts or whatever, or Ultimate Warrior, but he was always bouncing right on the cusp of the main event scene if he wasn't in there. Yeah. And it just would have made sense. He had so much hate and so much heat as a heel. He would have made sense as a big time heel champion to me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And to that point, I say Mr. Perfect.
Yeah, he's on my list too. And really everything that we just said about Rude can be applied to Perfect.
And Perfect had the gimmick. I mean, like, if you're going to be Mr. Perfect should have the championship. I feel like everybody that was managed by Bobby Heenan, maybe except the Barbarian, should have had the championship at some point.
Well, the one thing, like here with Rude did not have a natural ability to be a babyface, in my opinion, but Curt Hennig did. Kurt could have gone. He was a great heel or babyface.
Absolutely.
I preferred him as a heel, but he was
I think of him as a heel. I always think of him as a heel. It's like when you talk about Razor Ramon as a face. Like, I think of him as a heel too.
Oh, Razor?
Yeah.
Well, if you say Razor Ramon, I'm going to disagree with you. If you say Scott Hall, I would consider it.
But you don't remember Razor Ramon and 1-2-3 Kid? He was a heel then.
Yeah, I started watching a year after that, man, and he was full-blown babyface, never go back Razor Ramon.
Never go back. And then, which makes it more shocking when he shows up on WCW and beating up Eric Bischoff. And
Yeah, exactly. So while he had heel tendencies in the NWO, he was always super over, with a crowd cheer. So, he, to me, a baby face first, at least Razor. I know Razor debuted as the heel and he was great at that too. I love that Scarface gimmick and the toothpick and the perfect team taking on, Razor's team and everything like that. But, he was a great heel, but to me, Ramon's a baby face.
But as you go closer and closer to where we are now, everybody I can think of that deserved it or even that I liked got a run at it. I mean, in the 80s, if Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho had wrestled in the late 80s, early 90s, they never would have seen the championship.
Yeah, and you know what? Those are two great names of justice being served. When Benoit and Guerrero had it, which they actually held both titles at the same time, to me, the best workers in the business having the title.
Absolutely. And, some people would say Rey Mysterio Jr., well, he got a championship too. Like, everyone that people liked at one point or another, they were getting a championship, and now it's like that on steroids.
Yeah, it's just like, it bothers me that Jack Swagger held the world championship and someone like Scott Hall or Kurt Hennig or Rick Rude didn't.
Right.
So I've got one more name on my list. How many? Do you have any more names?
No, I mean, like, if you go if we went way back, you could look at the history books and be like, I can't believe the original Sheik didn't have a championship and blah, 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 blah. But we're talking about what means something to us.
Yeah,
and so I think I'm pretty much good on my list.
Okay, there's one more name, and I was pretty certain your name would not be. This name would not be on your list. You have interesting opinions about this guy. You've gone on record as saying you weren't a fan of his.
Oh, here we go.
What? Do you know who it is?
You're going to say Owen Hart.
Yeah, I do. I think he's one of the greatest that never won the world title, especially considering how often and with how many different opponents he was in a title situation with. Beginning with Brett, which that feud was so intense and so long running with the title on the line. And Owen did get over at times, but he never got the title. You got programs with Austin, admittedly for the IC title. Shawn Michaels, he had a world title feud with. And there are other examples too. I'm just with how close he's been to the main event scene his entire career. I do think it's a little surprising that someone like Jack Swagger has won the world title, who I guess is my go-to low bar, even lower than Jinder Mahal, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Someone like Jack Swagger has won the world title, and Owen Hart never did.
David Arquette won a world title. And if you want to go super low,
we got to do worst champions to ever win the world title.
Absolutely. I won't disagree with you that Owen Hart, he was a good worker. I didn't like him. I didn't like him, but that doesn't mean he's not good. That doesn't mean the dude sucked. I just didn't like him, and it didn't look like. Doesn't seem to me like he ever would have won the world title either. I mean, like, remember when he died, he was the Blue Blazer. Like, they were going the wrong direction with him.
No, if he was going to win the world title, it would have been pre-Attitude Era, I think. And I don't think he was going to last long as the Blue Blazer personally. But you have to remember when that stuff was going on, and his death in 1999, that was in May 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. The Attitude Era and the direction of WWF and the wrestling business was taking a huge right turn or left turn or whichever it is. And I don't like, it was becoming guys like Austin, guys like Rock, and it was not going to be someone like Owen.
EX.
Yeah, it just wasn't going to be Owen. But for that, what I consider to be the new generation up until, really up until the screw job era, I'm surprised he didn't ever seize the title without how many matches he had with Brett for the title or Shawn Michaels or whatever. I'm just really surprised he never picked it up.
Right.
So
he didn't. And so I think that's a good note to end on, a good one to end on, because I'm pretty much out of my list, for what I had.
Yeah, cool. Well, this is a fun topic, I think. And you know what? We had differing names than I was expecting to talk about today, so that makes me happy. Yeah,
that was good. And a side note, I don't know if you'll like this show or not, but I've been watching Glow on Netflix, and man, I love that stuff.
Yeah, so I think I got Brittany. She said she'll give it a try, but we have to finish Orange is the New Black first.
I love it. I used to watch the original Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, which this one is kind of loosely based on. It's not this isn't a documentary. It's not
right.
completely accurate. But I watched Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling with my grandma, and I loved it. And I was kind of hitting puberty to it, and it was pretty good for me. So watching the show now.
Well, I saw that. I saw Mike gave it a positive review, and I will watch it. It's just especially with moving coming up. I don't know when it will be, but I'm not ignoring it.
New Black?
I'm sorry?
Did you like Orange is the New Black?
I like it. Brittany loves it. We're inside the most recent season, so I can't give that a full review yet. But
well, the reason I ask is Glow is done by the people that did Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, I that was part of my selling tactic for Brittany.
Okay.
So, all right, man, you want to wrap this one up then?
Well, let's wrap it up.
Okay, so tomorrow we're going to be at a weird time slot, I think. Jerry's got a broadcast he has to do, so we might do an afternoon podcast tomorrow.
Probably from my house.
Yeah, I will probably be too. So bear with us for that. But it'll be a Raw review, which, by the way, I'm excited for Raw tonight, man. Raw's been on a friggin' hot streak, just coming off the Evansville Raw with Enzo and Kaz. Dude, I'm psyched for tonight's Raw.
If they don't start the show with Cass tonight, I think they missed a huge opportunity.
Yeah, you're probably right. But as long as it gets addressed, I'll be content. But yeah, I just heard Russo talking about this. You should always start the show with your lead story kind of thing. Which I'm trying to figure out if I agree with or not, but it didn't do wrong in the Attitude Era. I can tell you that. The dude knows how to write TV. I hate, and just this weekend I was listening to like the Jim Cornette stuff that he's been, shooting with Russo on, and it just makes me insane. I don't know why Russo has the reputation he has. To me, he will always be the best writer of wrestling television that I can recall.
I think here's the answer, because we can't argue about his writing ability or his wrestling genius, his wherewithal with the business. I really think that he's probably unlikable. I mean, maybe that's what it is.
I think that highly. Yes, I definitely think that. But I mean, I'd rather be the best writer of ever in wrestling and be disliked than be well liked and kind of forgettable.
Right. But if nobody likes you, they're not going to write songs about you. You know what I mean?
I guess you're right. But whatever the case may be, I love the guy still. I think
he's great. I want him on the podcast.
God, I want him to. I think he's still here in Evans. I hear he's talking about leaving. I've been listening to some of those podcasts, and I get it. But I'd love to meet the guy or whatever.
I'd like to meet him, but not that Jeff guy. Not at all.
Jeff's in New York, I think, so I don't think we have to worry about that.
Jeff is the worst.
I wish I could say I really like Jeff on a lot of podcasts like Conrad and Bruce. I think that the co-host job is really, really, really important, and that's where he's missing the boat. And I hate saying that about another, fellow podcaster, broadcaster, whatever you want to call him. But man, I agree with you.
Well, from one co-host to another, Jeff, you suck eggs, pal. Not even hard-boiled eggs.
What is that, raw eggs?
Raw eggs.
All right, man. Well, listen, thanks for participating in the episode today. Raw recap coming up tomorrow afternoon, a little bit later, but we'll still get it to you. For myself, the Rob, my tag team partner in podcasting, Jerry Valeri. We have to make our next topic worst world champions ever.
Jack Swagger, we don't salute you.